Resolution of conflict in employment relations is a complex business, and it requires bargainers to tread a delicate line between the way in which they express and pursue the interests of their principals and the way in which they establish effective, constructive, positive relationships with their bargaining partners, their bargaining opponents, the agents of the other side of the relationship. So another form of bargaining behaviour that reflects the nature of this relationship between bargainers was identified by Walton and McKersey as attitudinal structuring. The way in which bargainers attempt to influence the way in which their bargaining partners might feel about them, about how much they might be able to generate goodwill, cooperation, good feeling, a sense of sympathy, and that a skilled negotiator might also have these types of talents within their repertoire, because not only does an effective bargainer have to make sure that their principals are satisfied and content with their behaviour, but they do have to build and maintain this relationship with their bargaining opponents. Otherwise, they're unlikely to be able to achieve the kinds of compromises that are sometimes necessary in this kind of activity. So there are a couple of different approaches that we might think about, which draw on psychology in order to make sense of how we might attempt to try and change the way in which our bargaining partners feel about us. The first of which is cognitive balance theory. And cognitive balance theory is based around a relatively simple idea that people prefer consistency amongst their perceptions and beliefs about things and people that they interrelate with. So because of this desire for consistency, a desire for cognitive balance, there's a tendency for people to try to eliminate inconsistencies that exist between and amongst their perceptions in relation to people or objects to which they relate. Now that sounds quite complicated, but hopefully we can try and illustrate that with a few examples, because it does provide us with a very neat way that we can use in order to potentially influence other people around us, whether they're bargaining partners or whatever. So, for example, we imagine a relationship between yourself as a bargainer and your bargaining opponent. And that relationship can either be characterized as positive or negative, that your partner thinks positively about you or they think negatively about you. Now, because we like consistency amongst our beliefs or our perceptions about other people and the things that they might be associated with, if your bargaining opponent is associated with a particular thing, a policy, a practice, an object, and you also approve of that thing, so you think highly of this person, they are associated with a thing, an object, and you also think highly of that thing, then everything is in balance, everything is consistent, everything is positive in this model of cognitive balance that Walton and McKersey present. You approve of the thing, they are responsible for the thing, and therefore you like them. It's a balanced system of cognitions. Now, we can also see that being balanced in a negative way. So you think negatively about me, I am associated with this thing, and you also disapprove of this thing. All of the elements of this model are negative, and so it's in balance. It makes sense. Our cognitions all fit with each other. Now, the strange things start to occur, and the potential for changing the perceptions of others occur when we have imbalanced systems. So where systems are imbalanced, because we would like consistency, we feel uncomfortable when things are out of balance, when they're inconsistent. This provides us with a potential to intervene or change attitudes in some ways. So if we imagine you think negatively about me, you disapprove of this thing that I am responsible for. Now, how can I change or provide the potential for you to change your attitude about me? Well, one way that we could do is by, rather than being seen as being responsible for this thing, we disassociate ourselves from it. So I'm no longer responsible for that thing. And if your attitudes toward that object, that thing, are driving or at least reinforcing your dislike of me, my being no longer associated with it opens up the potential for you to change your attitude towards me as well. So we can change, or provide the opportunity for these kinds of changes to occur. And the same thing might happen in reverse. So you disapprove of me, but you like this thing that I am responsible for. Or if I am able to assume responsibility for this thing, I become associated with this thing that you like. Because you like this thing, you might start to like me as well. So we can rebalance systems of cognition, systems of how we think about the people that we interact with. And if we can identify objects with which we can either become associated or disassociated, and if we're able to make good judgments and to then reinforce those opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities for shifts in perception, shifts in cognition, you can have the opportunity to improve the relationships that we have with our bargaining partners. So cognitive balance theory is a very important potential route to changing relationships. Sometimes as well we can do things which are more obvious. Skinner's reinforcement theory. We can, if someone behaves in ways that we approve of, we can simply reinforce that. We encourage them to continue to behave in ways that we like, that we benefit from. And we can alter their behaviour in that way. Maybe we can even do things that are more crude than that. We can reward the other side for things that we like, or maybe even punish them if we think that they're behaving in a way that we would like to see less of. We slap somebody down, and hopefully we see less of that kind of behaviour in the future.